Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 73. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
I'm David.
I'm Pawel.
Hey, we're back to a normal introduction.
Hey.
We're all in the same room.
All of that weirdness that we had last week.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if we told anybody who we are.
Do you know, I don't think we did.
No.
I think
I think we just started the episode and
talking.
just started bickering with each other or something.
I think it made for a better intro.
So, for those of you that aren't aware, we've made some changes to the podcast, but just in a nutshell, this is a video games episode, and most of our episodes are probably going to be video games episodes from now on. We'll be tagging all the episodes, depending on what they are. It'll be VG and BG. So, here's a VG episode.
Still a bit, I'm not sure about that.
No?
VG, eh?
What you got in mind there, Euan?
Nothing good.
Alright. You're not going to elaborate, no?
No, it's one of the things where you could think VD,
You could think
or
VG.
a shortened version of vagina.
Yeah.
It's neither one of those things, but it's so close to either that it sort of encapsulates both and makes you feel a bit sick.
Ladies and gentlemen, our co-host Euan Glasgow.
There we go.
His mind is in the gutter.
Some dirty thoughts there.
Well, it's like I've always wanted to explain this to someone. There's a room at my work. It's like a conference room, and they're all named after things. And one of them's called the Curl Room, and it's CURLE. And something about that just like makes it's not right.
That doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
No, it doesn't. No, it's filth. Curl without an E, fine. Curl with an E. Makes you want to be sick.
I mean,
It's good to have problems like this.
Could be curly.
Are you not?
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's how I should start saying it to get over my own
Are you not tempted to just add a little W to the end
curlew.
and then a little picture of a bird?
Oh,
Is that a bird, is it?
Yeah.
you've just obscured this whole thing with another.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know. There might be a lecture or something called curlew.
I feel my references are wasted in this environment. I was on Chris's stream earlier, giving it my best material. It's like nothing. It's just
Yeah, it did take me a while to work out what the fuck you were talking about.
You need to find a bunch of mates who are less thick. I think it's.
Hey!
Hey, you!
Right, let's just get on with this.
I think it's about time.
We're here to talk about some video games, as I've said already.
We're doing well so far.
I'm going to start. I'm going to hog the mic here. I'm just going to give a sort of overview of a couple of things I've been playing. One is the big AAA. We've got to have a AAA title every so often, so I have been playing Assassin's Creed Origins, which came out at the end of last year, but I finally got around to actually playing it. I got it as a Christmas present. I've not put too much time into it. I'm not really an Assassin's Creed kind of guy, but I have played the last one. I played Syndicate.
Yeah.
I've got Syndicate. I never finished it.
Aye. You played a lot of it, though.
I did play a good chunk of it, but I mean, it was a very repetitive game. I mean, I think the thing that the Assassin's Creed games have got going for them is the settings that they use, because there was some in Syndicate it's set in Victorian London, and there was something like really familiar about that because having been to London quite a lot, you recognise a lot of these places, and they've really gone into the details. But even the railings on some of the bridges are exactly as they look in real life and all that sort of thing. Now this new one, it's Assassin's Creed Origins, or Oranges as you like to call it, is set in ancient Egypt, and you're playing as a guy who damn, I never wrote his name down.
Michael Fassbender.
You're playing as Michael Fassbender, who's an Egyptian, and he's what you call a Medjay, which, as far as I can tell, he's like a protector of the people or some sort of, like almost like a sort of ancient Egyptian policeman almost.
All right.
It's something along those lines. I've never really fully understood what it is, but you do get a severe telling off for attacking the civilians in this game by saying Medjay did not attack the population; they were supposed to protect them and all this sort of thing.
Oh, right.
So
So what was it doing when I watched you like slaughter a group of just like harmless farmers?
Well, I mean, I did
That's
get...
just Chris playing games.
That's
the
just
way
me playing
he does.
games. I did get desynchronised for doing that.
Oh,
So,
yeah, fair enough. As long as you got some kind of consequence.
well, I can't help myself though. I mean, one of the satisfying things about Assassin's Creed Origins is just like there are so many weapons in this game. Like there's just a massive variety of them compared to what Syndicate was like, where there was like 3. And this one, there's like, you know, there's daggers, there's swords, there's massive clubs, there's axes, there's like 4 different types of bow. There's like, you know, you get fire bombs and all this, and each of these weapons, like particularly the melee weapons, they all have like different ways of, like different styles of fighting. So you can really pick a weapon that suits you. So if you've got like the bigger weapons, like one of my favourite ones right now is this massive mace thing, which is really slow. But if you hit somebody with that, they go down like a ton of bricks. And you've got all the sort of Assassin's Creed things going on with like the skills and abilities, so you can unlock wee things that you can do with your weapons and stuff like that. Like that's the thing that struck me the most about this compared to Syndicate, is really just that the fighting style. It seems almost less tailored towards stealth than you would expect.
Is it not true that with each iteration of this game, there is less and less focus on stealth as such, or necessity for stealth?
I mean, it was a long time since I played the first Assassin's Creed, but I do remember that was a stealthy game. And one of the sort of original stealthy games, back when stealthy games became the thing.
It was tailored after Hitman. I mean, a lot of people drew that comparison when they saw the introductory trailer videos for it. They were like, oh, it's medieval Hitman. It didn't quite pan out that way, but that's kind of what it was aspiring towards, I think.
Well, in Origins, it's almost like they just want you to just go and start swedging people. I mean, you're in sort of Egypt during the sort of Roman times, and there's lots of Roman soldiers that are just riding horses around, just on the roads and stuff, and they'll attack you on sight.
Alright.
Like, they won't just walk past you and leave you alone, just go, there's a guy. They're like, oh no, kill him. And then you're just there's no hiding. You know, you're just going to have to fight them all.
There was another Assassin's Creed game where you would actually captain ships and just...
Yeah, I never played that one.
I can't imagine how you actually stealth kill another ship.
Well, maybe, I don't know, because I don't have a frame of reference here. Sorry, Dave, you got to say something?
Yeah, I believe... I haven't played that game either, but I believe it stands as being slightly different from the other Assassin's Creed games.
They all seem the same to me,
like
and I never managed to get into them because of the bloody animals thing.
It's like the what? Oh, I thought you said animals.
If that game was fully set in whatever time period it pretends to be, I would probably sort of be more into it, but because of all the modern time sort of stages, the animus mechanics, I just never really managed to get into it.
I get the feeling, though, that, like, I think most people, even like Assassin's Creed fans, think that that's the weakest bit of the game. Like, you don't play it for those bits. Like, nobody does anybody really care about that? Because there is some, like, story that's arching over the whole series that's supposed to be about these people that are inhabiting the bodies of the assassins in the past.
Well, I remember bringing this up when we talked about Syndicate. Yeah. And, like, from everything that I've been aware of, played, like, dipped in and out of games, in fact, I wasn't aware that there were playable bits in that part of the story. But I remember thinking it's like every time I've seen it go back to that, it's the most bland looking, just like, everything about it was tedious and just totally incidental to it felt to the main, like the thing that was the selling point of the game.
Yeah.
I think they've tried to do something a little bit different with this one, because when you go into the modern time, it's only happened twice so far as I've played it.
Right.
And it happens at particular moments in the story, the main story quests. I mean, I remember in Syndicate when it was going back to the modern times, it was just a bunch of like people arguing in a futuristic office or something. It was just, there was nothing really interesting about it. I remember nothing about it. That's how interesting it was, basically. And this one, that you're going, when you go into the modern times, you're just controlling this one woman who's in the tomb where the character you control is buried.
Right.
And she seems to have gone a bit rogue. I don't think she's supposedly working for the company. What are they called again?
Assassins.
They're not the assassins. I can't remember what they are, but there's some organisation that are doing all these things.
Consignia.
Yeah, we call them Insignia.
I only know those two.
But she's like got her own little futuristic bed thing that she jacks herself into, sort of thing, and she keeps getting told off by some other woman who's like speaking to her through some sort of communication device, who is telling her like, you need to stop doing this because you're going to end up losing your mind and blah blah blah. But she's like really addicted to what's going on in like this guy in ancient Egypt. And some of it's been interesting, and it's not lasted long. It's always been like a case of those bits of the game last sort of a few minutes at the most, where you're basically just, you run about, learn something about the story, and then you're back in ancient Egypt. Now, as with Syndicate, this game is, it's got all the locations that you would expect in an ancient Egypt thing. You start off in a desert land sort of thing. There's a little Egyptian village that you start in, and then I've got into Alexandria now, and you can see the Great Lighthouse and all that. You can go and climb up the top of that, which is always
eagle jump thing.
Yeah, and you do the leap of faith off the top of all these things. So the game's it's gorgeous, put it that way. I mean, and it feels like you're in a living city, which is being occupied by Romans, and they've built all their own temples and all that sort of thing. So you see all this sort of, there's like contrasting buildings where like this is Egyptian, there's like Egyptian slums in Alexandria sitting right next to, big temples to whatever Roman god. And
that's pretty cool.
And the main character himself, I find it quite interesting, because the story really is that you are like this Magi, and your son has been killed. He was murdered by this mysterious group of masked people, and you're trying to like hunting down these masked people. But it turns out that you find out your wife is also hunting them down, but you're separate from her. So she ends up killing like one or two of them herself.
Oh.
And now the point I've got to is that I've killed all the people that are on the list, but now this main character, I mean, I really wish I could remember his name.
Was that a funny name?
No, there's nothing amusing about it at all. But he's like now a bit sort of, what if there were more? So I'm off to find out if there were more. Oh. But I've got to I'm now like level 15 in the game. Dare I say it? It feels almost like they've taken a bit of, it's moved in like the Assassin's Creed sort of thing has moved a bit more towards the Witcher style of game. Especially when it comes to all the sort of different weapons and all that kind of thing. It's never going to be as deep as The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is its own animal, and I don't think anything's ever going to hit that. But definitely it feels much more, compared to Syndicate, it feels much more like a step in that direction.
Sorry, question.
Yes.
So in Syndicate, I remember you were supposedly building your own gang, and there were gang wars and the like. And I've seen trailers for the Oranges one. And in the Oranges one, you're supposedly mounting up some sort of rebellion. There was a lot of like common folks and slaves sort of backstabbing the masters and stuff like that.
There does seem to be, yeah. I've not had that much of an encounter with the rebellion yet. Like I say, I don't think I've really scratched much of the surface of this game yet. The map's fucking huge. It is like. The first time I went onto that map and had a look around, I didn't really zoom out, but when I eventually did, I was like, Jesus Christ, this game is massive.
So long as there's camels, I'm probably going to play it.
So yeah, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I've heard that you, at some point, will meet Cleopatra, or she has been mentioned that she'll be in the game.
Because there's always somebody that was in each of those games. There's like Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes, so there's always famous people, and I think Julius Caesar's in it, and I'm not really sure if like Mark Antony makes an appearance or anything like that, but definitely it seems that there's something stirring, because there has been mentioned that Cleopatra's trying to take the throne back.
If you get to backstab Julius Caesar, that would be just awesome.
Well, that would be cool. But at the moment, it seems that the Romans are my enemies because they're always trying to kill me. There's a lot of like crafting and stuff in this game as well. You do get to craft upgrades, which is fun. You get to go and hunt hippopotamuses for their leather. They're absolutely mental.
Do you ride camels?
You can ride camels, yes.
Excellent.
You can buy camels, you buy horses, and there's various, just the usual thing you would expect. There's side quests. It's got all the things where, like, there's camps, which I think are in pretty much all the Assassin's Creed games. There's camps that you can go in and you can clear them out, and it's always Roman camps so far. So yeah, I mean, so far it's a decent game. I don't know. I just get the feeling I'm not going to finish it like I did with Syndicate. I'm just not going to finish it because it just seems too big. And if it gets anything like Syndicate became just a grind. It was just you're just going to each location. Here's a bunch of camps to clear out. Here's a bunch of quests that are all very similar. And I'm getting that same sort of feeling from this game. So I don't know if it's going to hold my attention for too long.
It sounds to me like it's become an awful lot like Far Cry.
Yeah. That's
a lot of games have now.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think you need to move away from that. It almost feels like people are putting these things in their games just to fill it up a bit.
Well, when you've got the open world, they all do seem to now go in that way, and I guess it's just a natural progression. Like, all right, what do we put in this game? It does always seem to be camps and
animals, hunting.
Just need a lot of storyline to fill it. I mean, Witcher 3 world is huge, but you have enough storyline to support it. Whereas if it's an open world with not much to actually guide you through it, then
the Witcher 3 again, like, it felt quite, because locations felt different. Everywhere felt like it was its own location that you go to. Whereas a lot of these other games, like you say, the Far Cry ones, it's like, here's a camp. This is a camp. When you see something, you go, "Oh, I know what that is."
Here's a copy and pasted building.
Yeah, it always feels quite kind of like perfunctory. Oh, you do this thing and go on to the next, and it's just
and that's the feeling I'm getting off this. But like I say, I have not really scratched the surface with that. I hope it's going to have some surprises for me. I did go to the Hippodrome in Alexandria, and you can do some chariot races, but they seem completely stupid. Like, it just seems like something they've added into the game in like in a Grand Theft Auto style way, where they've gone, here's a race for you to do, which is completely stupid and not worth your while.
Yeah. No doubt there'll be like collectibles or something like that.
No doubt.
There were races challenges in the Victorian one as well, weren't there?
Yeah, there was, but I think those are races around the streets. Whereas the difference here is that you're literally in a hippodrome, which is just an oval track. You're just going round in circles. I mean, you can ram the other chariots and stuff with that, but so far it just seems like this is a waste of time.
But there's camels, so
there's fine. Camels, and I love the setting. I really do like the setting. It's so much more. It's so much different from Syndicate, but like gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's not anything that I would find recognisable, but it's a pleasure to be in.
Well, we'll have to wait and see until you've played it a bit more.
Yeah, I think so.
It's always been the thing with the Assassin's Creed games. I think that the settings have been strong. Visually, they've looked good and they've been moderately atmospheric, but they've struggled to put a game in there that you want to play for any length of time. Maybe this one. I mean, this one's reviewed quite well, hasn't it?
I think it has, actually. Yeah.
So, but we need to see how it goes, I suppose. Cause
I'll keep playing it. It's one of these things that I just turn on for like an hour or two at a time, and then go and plug away at some quests for a while, and then go and do something else like play Fortnite. But,
that's still ongoing then.
Oh yeah, Fortnite.
But just the battle royale then, or
I've basically just given up in the main game. I went back and tried to play one of the main game levels in Fortnite the other day there, and I was just like, this is just tedious. Like, but I should probably say Battle Royale's had a pretty major update. They've added a whole load of new locations into the map, so they've filled in some of those gaps that were in the map. There's one place in particular, Tilted Towers, which is just like a bunch of towers and skyscrapers and stuff in a sort of small area, which is an absolute fucking hellhole when you drop in there at the start of the game. Everybody's just slaughtering each other. But I've pretty much given up on the solo mode in Battle Royale. I'm just fed up of it now. I much prefer just playing it in squads. I think squads are just much more fun to just play with other people. But the whole thing with solo mode is that it's just become an exercise in, like, you're hiding from other people who are hiding from you. So whoever runs out first is going to get shot. Like, it's just become just so boring. Like, it's just the same stuff.
There's only so many hours you can spend in the bathroom.
Well, that's it. Yeah, there's only so long you can hide in a bush before you have to move, and then somebody snipes you. So it's. I mean, I've had my fun with the solo mode. I'm pretty much just set on playing squads now.
How's the lawsuit doing? How's the lawsuit doing with?
I have no idea.
Player, no.
Oh, are they getting into some?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know how they can do stuff like that.
It is basically the same game.
It's basically the same game, but then
you're playing it.
this has happened so many times through gaming history. Just gaming modes become normal things. I mean, like deathmatch shooting, like first-person shooter games. I mean, who did that first? Was that Doom, Duke Nukem, something like that?
I think it might have even been Quake.
Or Quake, yeah. It was, maybe it was Quake.
Quake was like the first one where it really popularised the kind of, forgetting the deathmatch.
The deathmatch modes, aye.
Yeah, and then Half-Life came along and started modifying, bringing in things like the Team Fortress and...
Yeah, but my point is, they just become game modes. So it's not like how can you...
It's like how can you can't steal a genre.
Yeah, that's it. Aye, you can't copyright a genre.
Yeah.
So.
Is this court case involving Battlegrounds?
Yeah.
PlayerUnknown.
Yeah.
And are they basically alleging that they've copied their game?
Yep.
Just because it plays the same.
Because it plays the same, yeah.
Because the concept is the same.
That's never going to be successful.
No.
That can only be frivolous. There was a game that was a carbon copy of a Zelda game. The only thing that was different is it didn't include the word Zelda or any of the assets, but the game, like level for level, was basically the same. And
that just went nowhere then.
Yeah, they were fine.
Wow.
As far as I know.
Suppose you just need good lawyers. Goodness me.
Anyway, let's move on. I was going to talk about something else, but actually I'm going to shut up for a bit and let Pawel talk.
Oh, hello.
So Pawel, what have you been playing?
I've been wasting time. I don't like wasting time, so I'm gonna now waste a bit more time to talk about how I wasted time on playing a game that wastes your time, which I've been informed, and I sort of knew it, although it didn't really fully dawn on me until my comrades in arms mentioned that it's actually a mobile game, Fallout Shelter, which has been released about 2 years ago on iOS devices, but very recently on Steam. I'm like, a free-to-play game, let's have a laugh. So I've downloaded that.
Sort of grind, more like.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. That's what it turns out to be, obviously. Because most of them are, aren't they? But anyway, yeah. Fallout Shelter is a base building, I suppose. I'm not going to call it a game. Or activity, in fact, because you'd have to be active in order for something to be called activity. I'll just say it's a thing where you start, I suppose, selecting areas where you're going to have various rooms that give you resources. You populate those rooms with Pip-Boys, essentially, and Pip-Girls, I should say, as well. So the caricature, whatever, Fallout poster boy and poster girl. And
I don't know if they're called Pip Boys.
The blonde
Pip Boys, the thing you wear on your wrist.
Wait, you're right. So what's the blonde dude called?
He's the mascot as well, though.
Yeah.
Is he called Pip Boy too?
I don't know if he's called. Is he called Pip Boy?
I know Pip Boy is definitely the thing you wear on your wrist.
Damn,
no, he's
right.
called Vault Boy.
He's called Vault Boy. Yes.
I do apologize, the makers of Fallout. I also don't apologize because you made me play Fallout Shelter.
We do like to get our terminology correct on this podcast.
Yes, like Assassin's Creed Oranges.
and Fassbender, yes. Right, so this was my first and hopefully last excursion into mobile gaming. And my findings are as such. You start doing something and things happen in front of you. From time to time you're required to maybe, if you like, press something or tap something on your device. In case of a PC, if it's a Steam port, you just click your mouse and then you watch things happen. Things do happen automatically most of the time. Challenge is none. And then as soon as you think you've got the hang of the game, because there's like 3 or 4 different rules that you have to pay attention to, and you can learn the game in about 8 seconds, you then realize that your whatever activities, let's call them, let's be generous, activities require time in order to be completed. You can speed things up by paying real dollars or British sterling pounds, which is fantastic. And there's loot boxes and all sorts of these trappings that I've been mostly avoiding. I've had my adventure with loot boxes when I played Mass Effect multiplayer thing in Mass Effect 3 many years ago. and that's pretty much that. So yeah, this one's got loot boxes as well. My goodness.
You mean gambling?
No. You get some loot boxes for the initial quests, and then obviously they stop dropping.
That's an interesting point, Euan. Are loot boxes just a form of gambling?
Well, this is being debated in several parliaments at the moment.
Some countries think so.
Honestly, after the whole debacle with
EA.
With EA and what they did with
Star Wars.
What was it? Battlefront. Battlefront. Yeah, no, the genuine. It's been brought up in a few places, Australia, Belgium, apparently.
Yeah.
Basically, they're looking into it as gambling, because essentially it's what it is.
Yeah.
Kids are going on, and it's like put in this money in the hope that you're going to get this thing, and particularly with Battlefront, where they started tying stuff to it that wasn't just cosmetic, which is what the excuse that they've put away in the things like, what's that? Blizzard one. Oh God, I forget.
Hearthstone. Hearthstone?
No. Oh my God, why can't I remember the name of it? The shooty one. Overwatch, yeah. Like, that's got loot boxes in it, and they get round it and say, well, it's just cosmetic, it's stuff that doesn't really matter. And I suppose that holds a certain amount of water, but like, people do desire these things. And
because there's actual markets to trade the cosmetics, you get. I think there was some sort of bandana recently found in a loot box by some guy who ended up selling it to another player for $8,000.
If anyone tries to tell you the loot boxes are anything other than a nefarious way of trying to pump money out of children, they are a liar, basically.
See, the defence that these companies are using, right? And by the way, I do not agree with this at all. All right, before I say this,
humorous.
I'm just going to humour you. Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Oh, should we get the theme music out for devil's advocate?
Is it that apparently these companies don't make enough money on just selling the games to cover their.
Well, then they need to learn to be better at making the games.
Well, exactly.
They need to sort their whole administrative situation.
But, I mean, I don't know if I believe them, because game developers are notoriously underpaid.
Nah.
And so I don't know where all this money's going exactly.
Well, to executives who are stealing it, who are siphoning, as usual with everything, siphoning off money, people who do nothing, and that's how it works.
I'm even gonna, as a very sad, depressed Mass Effect fanboy, I'm gonna add here that I think it's actually the loot boxes that killed Mass Effect as such. Because to everybody's surprise,
I have to stop you there, Pawel.
No, my point is that Mass Effect 3 was a decent game up to the ending, but to everybody's surprise, Mass Effect 3 multiplayer turned out to be very popular.
Sorry, Pawel, I want to hear what Dave's got to say.
When they made Andromeda, they've put all their effort, and as weak as it is, into multiplayer, and solo mode was just completely undercooked, is what I think. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, yeah, you've kind of said one of the things I was going to say.
Okay.
In that, the multiplayer. I would have said Mass Effect 2 was what killed Mass Effect.
Mass Effect 2 is considered the best of the entire franchise.
That may well be the case.
By who?
It's also...
I think this is something that Dave's and you are never going to see eye to eye on. So.
Which is why we should bring it up as much as possible.
It's the Devil's Advocate theme tune.
Which Mass Effect was the one that introduced multiplayer?
3.
So not in 2?
No.
Oh well, then I'm wrong.
You're wrong, Dave.
I apologise.
Well, I'll think about maybe forgiving you.
Let's get back to Fallout Shelter.
Fallout Shelter
that's what we were talking
is
about.
designed, and you can see it at every step, to make you buy things. Or to just make you come back to the game. Either works. So because whatever you start doing, you get into the game. Because I've had, say, 4 or 5 sessions of this game, and each of them lasted about 10 minutes, unfortunately. Because after the first few minutes, you realise you're doing nothing, and you just bloody switch it off. But then you realise, but in about 3 hours, my little whatever children, my small new vault dwellers will be born, so I can assign them new functions. So there is already this addiction element where you sort of want to go back maybe next day, because there's going to be more content waiting for you. And and as you keep coming back, there is more content waiting for you as soon as you use up this content in the first few minutes of gameplay, which is essentially just assigning items to dwellers and assigning rows to dwellers, and that's it. There is nothing unless you speed things up, because you can always you send your dwellers to a mission. An exploration mission is essentially just a couple of clicks, but it will take them an hour or 2 hours of actual real time to reach that. Or you can spend an item for them to reach that place instantly. Those items you buy with real money, or sometimes very, very rarely find. So you're either tempted to actually start speeding things up by spending your real money, or you quit the game, but then you still sort of want to see, if you're into this sort of things, you want to see all the things you were waiting for, because in the next few hours or next day they will be available. I've never been through an experience like this, and it was odd. It was alien.
It's interesting listening to you, because obviously, I think most of us have probably been aware of these kind of games for a while, and it's interesting that you're sort of encountering this now, because I was amazed when I heard that you'd been playing this.
It's just because I've played every single Fallout game ever. And I've not completed all of them, but because it's part of the franchise. Let's have a look.
Well, it's become a genre in itself, and you can go onto if you're on Android, Google Play or whatever, or whatever it is on iOS, but it's actually a genre of idle games, they're called.
Idle games.
Which is it's like a weird oxymoron.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So you don't actually do anything. I mean, it's become a big thing. And it's tied in, I guess, to
the other sort of style of game that confuses me are clicker games as well. There's games where you're clicking is the only thing that you do.
I remember you tried to describe one to me. I was I didn't even understand what.
Our chum Craig, who knows how to program stuff, started playing a clicker game and then made a program that clicked the mouse, this made the software basically click the mouse millions of times a second for him or something like that. So that basically that he was literally just sitting in front of his computer, staring at it, doing nothing, and just watching the game click the mouse for him. It's just, what is the point in these games? Even if you've not got that software, you're just literally clicking.
Is a good sort of example, Craig, of just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Well, yeah.
That's pretty much like the.
Well, I don't know. I can sort of understand that. I remember ages ago, Chris and I were playing. Was it Russian nuclear fishing? I can't remember what it was even
atomic
called.
Fishing.
Yeah, Chris played that for one evening on his stream for a bit of a laugh. If you look in my Steam profile, I think it says something like 400 hours.
Oh my god!
And this is another free-to-play game, I should add, with microtransactions and
both
what have you.
terrible and amazing at the same time.
Yeah, developed by some guys from Belarus, I believe. But the reason I have so much time in it is because I spent all my time in that game developing a robot to play the game for me. I never showed it to you. It was amazing. It did... initially, it just reeled in the fish for me.
Right.
That was the first thing, because you just push 2 buttons to reel in the fish, and I'm like, well, I can get my computer to do this for me. It was ruining my keyboard, for one thing. My shitty laptop keyboard was getting knackered by it. So that was the first thing, and then I was like, well, maybe I can get it to actually look at what's on the screen and more efficiently reel in the fish for me, rather than just pushing the 2 buttons. So I got it to do that, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I can get it to go and sell the fish for me. Yep. It used to eat and drink at the right times, give me the radiation medication. I got so into doing this, and so I would leave it running. I was over Christmas when I was at my parents', I just left it running for hours and hours. I was at the top of the high scoreboard for fish tonnage, being fished every day.
So you're saying that you made a bot to play a Russian game for you about fishing?
Yeah. It was...
Dave, what's wrong with you?
It was great fun. Well, I mean, the game itself was... Well, and it meant I could spend more of my time on the chatting to...
Well, that's true. Chatting to the people in that game was one of the funniest things. They were generally unimpressed. They just wanted to be left with their atomic fishing.
Please stop speaking to me. But I know, Dave, you have a fraught relationship with some of these games, because I remember watching you, only a couple of months ago, you had your iPad and you were playing fairly obsessively Fire Emblem. Now, what was it called?
Fire Emblem Heroes?
Yeah, it was something like that. It's always
I
Heroes.
can't even remember.
Yeah, well, it's just the thing, because I
played it
was
for
watching,
a whole year.
And you were simultaneously seemingly addicted to the game, but also absolutely hated it.
Well, I didn't hate it, but I had that game actually allows you to automate a lot of what goes on, isn't it? It's actually part of the game, so you can set your little team of Fire Emblem heroes to fight automatically.
Right.
And so if you can develop the squads correctly, they'll be able to get through the various missions and stuff without you actually manually controlling them. If you give them the right skills and the right abilities, and
That's
so on.
terrible.
I'm in agreement with Pawel here. That's terrible. I've played a Fire Emblem game before.
I remember original Fire Emblem games.
It was one on the Wii I played, and it was notoriously difficult.
I played that one.
Oh, to be clear, this is nothing like playing Fire Emblem at all.
Right.
It just happens to use it's called Heroes because it takes all the heroes from all the different games over the years, and it's to be played on a phone. And
I see.
The point, what I would say about Fallout Shelter is the thing you've done wrong here, Pawel, is
I played it.
You've played it on your computer.
What?
And this is a mobile phone game.
Yeah.
Why would I play a game on my phone though?
Well, no.
Because
yeah,
you
but
can.
like you've taken it.
Well, nobody's telling you. Nobody's forcing you.
I've got Ultimate Lion Simulator on my phone. It's amazing.
My phone is for emailing people and picking up support calls from work.
So, microtransactions aside, the way the game works is tailored towards short sections of play. You're meant to just play it for like briefly, and then, all right, my bus journey is over now. I'll go to work. I'm not going to look at it again. I get home. I'm waiting for my tea's cooking. I'll take a quick look at it. That doesn't make it a good game.
No, but you're right. The dynamics.
What you've done is like kind of made it even more horrible for yourself.
That's very true, because my impression of it was similar to what I think Euan's just said. Playing something, getting addicted. I did not, but I could sense where the addiction seeds were.
They all have
and
that.
hating it along the way. I kept playing and wondering, why am I actually not playing Fallout 4 while I'm playing this? I would enjoy it so very much more. But I wanted to see if it leads somewhere, because I couldn't believe it's so shallow, with essentially just a few bits happening and none of it challenging to the in the slightest.
Oh well.
Right, can I just come in here? Right, I'm going to have to make you stop talking about this now, right? Because I've played this game, right?
Yeah, I
played this when it first came out.
I feel sorry for you.
And I am absolutely appalled that we have spent nearly 20 minutes talking about this. Right. It's a free-to-play game.
Yeah, it was a promo.
A way of passing the time. It was a
stole
promo
my
for
time.
Fallout 4. It was a promo for Fallout 4. It came out just before. And yeah, 20 minutes, no.
That sparked some lively discussion, though.
It has sparked. I mean,
the amount
we've
of time
covered,
we've actually spent talking about.
That's true. At least half of it we've been talking about, like atomic fishing and stuff.
Oh yeah, which sounds a lot more fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does actually.
I can assure you that it is.
Yeah, well, I've already told Pawel my story about the angry Polish man I encountered on the giant atomic fishing.
And you know what? The way you actually reeled this guy in, it wasn't about atomic fishing. It was actually about sinking a hook in this guy and slowly reeling him in. It was masterful. This proved to me,
Dave,
like nothing else, that you're a backstabber, Dave.
Is this a long story, Dave? Or?
Yeah, we'll not go into it.
We'll maybe save that.
Yeah,
That could be a future segment.
Well,
I'm not sure if our viewers or listeners
Dave
are ready
baiting
for it.
people
'Cause it's devious and also scary.
Does it make you scared of Dave or
Both.
right?
Dave,
Okay.
Yeah, Dave and
Right. Well,
atomic
I'm going to
fishing.
have to insist that we move on.
That's
I'll quickly talk about Bounty Train then, because I did a stream earlier on today. Just a quick one. I was only on for about an hour and a half, and I decided I would start playing something new, because I've been playing a lot of Hollow Knight, which is a game that Dave talked about just before we broke up for our winter break thing.
which looks really cool.
And yeah, that's a really fun game. Difficult.
really
fucking difficult.
Do you agree it's difficult now?
Yeah, I agree that it's difficult.
After saying on your podcast that Dave's been overstating the difficulty of this game.
When did I say this?
But after you played it for like 2 hours or something.
Well, I watched you on the stream, and you did seem to be in the same room for about 2 hours.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first part.
We weren't impressed with your skills.
The first part of the game, I think, like I managed to go without dying for quite a while, and then as soon as you get into some of these other bits, it's like fucking hell. Like some of these little enemies are just annihilating me. Anyway, I'm not going to go into Hollow Knight. We've already talked about that. But it's a pretty good game, and I'm still streaming that. So yeah, I decided because I was doing a rare daytime stream that's not part of the normal schedule, I would play something else. So I played a bit of Bounty Train, which is it's a game that I found on Steam, and it seemed to have like pretty good ratings and reviews and stuff. And I was like, okay, let's check this out. So it's almost like, what was that I described it? It was like a pick up and deliver board game almost, but with like weird tactical shooting parts in it. So it's set in the sort of like the days of the sort of beginning inside the railroads in America, and you're basically just got a shitty little train and a little cargo hold, and there's a story that you're basically inheriting your dad's company, and you've got a brother and sister as well who have got some of the shares, but there's some nefarious man who's trying to buy the shares in this company, so you've got to try and keep ahead of him in the share count, I think is the idea. It's weird, but essentially what you're doing is you're just going to different towns, and you start off in Portland, and you can go to Boston, and you can get to New York and Utica and all these, like Pittsburgh and all these various places. You have to unlock these places by making money and then buying like permits basically to run your train along those lines. But you're essentially, you're just picking stuff up in one town, and then there's like lists, there's like a little economy system in the game, tells you how much you can buy something for in each town. Each town produces different things, and they want different things, and if you sell loads of stuff to one town, I mean, it's like Railroad Tycoon.
It's Sid Meier's Railroads.
Yeah, it's basically the same sort of idea. But one of the interesting things about it is that you don't know exactly how much something costs in each town until you go there. So like you could go and buy something thinking it'll tell you what the last price for something was in, say, Utica. If you'd been there a while ago, that was the last price that they would buy this thing for. You would buy a bunch of that stuff and take it to Utica, and then they would go, oh no, we don't need this much anymore, so you would end up making a loss on it. But you can buy like subscriptions to newspapers that'll tell you how much everything costs, but you have to do that in each town, blah blah blah. And that's all sort of very well and good. That just sounds like a game within itself. But then there's this whole other aspect to it where you're basically having to hire people to protect your cargo, and like every so often you'll just get jumped by bandits. And then you go into this little map where you've got your train, and you can set people to just shovel coal so that you can get the train speed going up faster to try and get away from these bandits. But in the meantime, you've got little guys, you can move them around in the train, and they'll be shooting at the bandits that are trying to hold you up. And you have to like equip these people and stuff, so you go to the towns and you can buy guns and like different sets of clothes and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, there's like two sort of different games going on there that seem to, like you say, one's like a pick up and deliver game, which is a completely different thing from a tactical shooter thing.
Yeah.
You know, but they work well together, and it works well with the theme as well. So yeah, I'm quite impressed by it, to be honest. I mean, I don't know if it was the most exciting game to stream, to be perfectly truthful, but because the vast majority of the time you are just running between towns and picking up people and cargo and delivering them other places. And you can upgrade your train and do all this stuff. You can add new carriages, and you've got to watch your tonnage and stuff like that. I made a big mistake by buying a massive cargo like train thing, and then realising that actually my engine can't haul all of that with cargo in it. So I ended up having to detach a whole bunch of the other cars and like leaving them behind.
Sorry, the shooty element, is that real time or turn-based?
Yeah, it's real time.
Okay.
But they do make this big deal about because you get the tutorial things up, you can do a tactical pause. And if you press the button, it comes up on the screen and says tactical pause, just to let you have a look around and see what's going on. Yeah, so you scratch your chin for a bit and then just go, nah, just keep shooting. I don't think there's too much to the tactical thing, the tactical shooting bit of it, to be honest. But there are like, you can get skills and abilities for your guys. They seem to, I don't know if there's like each person has different skills and abilities or whatever. I've not dug that far into it, but
have you found the shooting parts quite challenging, or are they?
Oh yeah, I've only done the shooting bit once so far, and I died because I didn't have anybody else on my train. So I've been spending the last little while trying to find some bodyguards. Every time I go to a town, I can't find anybody. The first time I went to New York, there was like 4 or 5 bodyguards ready for hire, and then now that I go there's none. So I don't know where they've all hidden, but I'm going to have to go and find them.
Go get some Pinkertons to get on the train.
So yeah, Bounty Train's available on Steam. I can't remember how much I paid for it. I think I got it in a sale. So
sounds good.
It's actually surprisingly fun. So check it out. All right, now we're going to move on to Dave's new segment. So we're adding some segments into the episodes, and we're going to start with this. So Dave, what are you calling this?
I believe we're calling it the Retro Games Book Club.
Excellent. Have we got a theme tune?
Let's hope so.
If you're listening to this, you'll know.
You'll know if we bothered to make this theme tune yet or not. Okay, well let's get started on this then. What was the challenge for us then?
The challenge for this Retro Games Book Club was for the guys to go back and play a game called NetHack.
Which is such a wrong title. It's just incorrect. I am appalled, honestly. You give me a retro game called NetHack, and I assume it's a text-based hacking game. It's in fact hack and slash game.
It is text-based though, so you got that bit right.
Yes, because you play a symbol at.
Yes, NetHack's one of my favourite games, and it's, I think, one of the best games of all time. I would say it certainly used to be in my top 10, and it dates. It's definitely a retro game because it traces its lineage all the way back to 1980. When the original Rogue came out. And NetHack is a roguelike. It's a roguelike in the original sense of what roguelike games were. They were turn-based dungeon crawlers which you played on a text-only terminal. So there's no graphics. There's no bitmap graphics. All the graphics are created using the ANSI character set. So the walls are like hyphens and dashes, the floor is like a hash, doors are pluses, your little character is an @ symbol, like Pawel mentioned.
There's a letter D chasing you around those rooms.
Well, not originally, but yes, all the monsters are letters, so a small d could be a dragon, but it could also be a dingo or a jackal. A large d might be a large d is a dragon, beg your pardon. Small d is like a dog, F is like a cat.
What were the X's again?
X's were grid bugs.
Grid bugs, that was it. I wrote that down.
A lot of grid bugs.
Yeah, well, see, there's only, even with capital letters, there's only so many letters available. So, not every animal can have its initial for the letter. And it is a straight, or well, when Rogue came out in 1980. It was a straight dungeon crawl. You just killed monsters, you went down through the levels of the dungeon, there was like spells and scrolls and things, and the objective of the game was to retrieve the Amulet of Yendor, which you would find at the bottom somewhere, and you had to bring it all the way back up to the top, and that's how you won. But then, a few years later, 1984, there was a game called Hack, and this is I'm coming to how the name is derived for Pawel.
Okay.
And, they started out, Hack added like shops. I believe, Chris, you found a shop when you were...
I found 2 shops there, actually.
They added the Wizard of Yendor, or Rodney, as he's affectionately known. And then NetHack came along 1987. And the reason it's called NetHack is because it was developed by a group of academics in their spare time, distributed across different academic institutions, and they coordinated and communicated across the internet. Mm-hmm. And the game was distributed through Usenet. I don't know if Pawel, if you remember what Usenet is. It was a sort of like very early version of Reddit, possibly. There were no forums because the World Wide Web is only just starting up and stuff. So Usenet was sort of news groups, and that's how they distributed the game. And when NetHack came along, it just added like millions of other stuff. And then they went on to develop that game for all the way up to, say, 2003, and they just kept adding more and more to it. They added, the dungeon became, instead of just going straight down, it became like there were branches in it, there were like different roles, there was a whole end game added onto it. It was no longer as simple as like running down to the bottom of the dungeon and getting the amulet and running back up. And they just continued to make it more and more sophisticated until 2003, when that was kind of it. They kind of stopped there, and people were kind of happy with the game, how it was. I mean, the reason it stalled is because, and one of the reasons is because one of the sort of key developers sadly passed away, and that kind of, they lost momentum. But other games were spawned from it.
There's so many.
Moria and Angband were really popular at the time. There were other text ones, and then now, you know, we have games which we call roguelikes, and they are still in some way inspired by the original game Rogue. They have permadeath, procedural generation, other aspects like that. And so you have games today like Don't Starve, Spelunky. Strangely, even though Spelunky is a platformer, it's actually heavily influenced by NetHack. If you play Spelunky at all, there are shopkeepers in shops, and that definitely hugely takes it's the way things interact with each other in a sort of emergent way in Spelunky, in the way that they think of clever ways for things like the shopkeepers. If you destroy his shop, have you played Spelunky, Pawel?
No.
Sorry,
this was my first experience in this particular genre.
Yeah, so Spelunky, influenced by NetHack as well, and many others. So all these games that we play now all trace their lineage back to these original ones.
Yes, but I should say that Nuclear Warhead does trace its lineage to a branch.
What?
Wooden branch. Used to be a weapon a long time ago.
Okay, well that's true. And really...
No, I'm sorry. I played Don't Starve, and I see no similarity between that and NetHack.
Oh no, there's a huge similarity. Don't Starve is it's only very recently with games like Don't Starve that we have games that are approaching the level of complexity of the interactions between elements that there are in NetHack. Don't Starve is very clever. You know, you've got just things like the little rabbits that come out the holes and they run away from you, and you're like, oh, how do I catch them? And you put the traps out, but then you find that there's other ways that you can catch them that are more clever. And NetHack works that way. There's a saying, I mean,
I've probably just not managed to do a single clever thing in this game, and that's why I can't understand the complexity in it. Because
why don't we hear what everybody thought about it, and how did everybody get on? What were your adventures?
Can I start?
Tell us what happened.
So I play as a symbol Et, which has some characteristics like strength and stuff.
You played as a caveman.
Yes, it's Pawel Daruk the troglodyte I was, armed with a clap +1, and I'm in a room and I start walking around and there is a letter D chasing me, and it took me a while to realize that this letter D does not mean me any harm, so it was fine, and it kept eating my enemies, which was even better. I kept getting
What was your letter
by,
D called? Did you name it?
Slasher.
Slasher?
This is the default name
was that a dog?
of the letter D. I don't know.
Oh.
But the thing is...
Are they always dogs?
In this game...
One of the things in NetHack is when you start the game, you choose your class and then you're generated... you get a pet.
Yeah.
And you always get a pet. And what you get can depend on what your class is. So sometimes they have default names. So in Pawel's case, Slasher the dog, I believe, is the default
for
pet
caveman.
for caveman.
Right, yeah.
And he follows you around... is generally helpful, very helpful in some cases.
Yeah. The game tracks your hunger level, I suppose, possibly thirst, and a few other things that you'd expect from a game like this. So I had to learn to eat various corpses that I would leave behind, because otherwise I would just keep fainting. Other than that, there were various letters of the alphabet and other symbols. I think semicolons attacked me quite a lot. Those were newts, I think. So the combat, so far as I can tell, is pressing a directional button so that your letter Et would essentially ram into the enemy letter. Now I understand there are skills in this game that you can employ to maybe do things more, I'm going to say,
efficiently or more impressing maneuvers than just ramming yourself against your enemy. But this is how I kept killing my enemies, which was essentially just pressing a directional button until something died or I died.
What Pat was talking about is melee. I believe if you've played an RPG before, and this is very much a role-playing game in the old D&D style, it uses the original D&D system for all of the combat. That's why you're seeing like +1 clubs and all the sort of rolls to hit, rolls for damage, armor class. I don't know if you noticed your armor class down at the bottom. If you recall the old armor class system in D&D, this is like 2nd edition D&D, right. I think. I believe something like that. It's before 3.5. It's before the D20 system, I think. So yeah, what you're talking about is melee. It just so happens that rather than making you press a melee button in order to melee things, because there's enough buttons to press in this game, you facilitate the melee by standing next to an enemy and then pushing the direction that faces them, and that's how you hit them with your melee weapon.
Yes, and this is the only thing I've done in this game, apart from eating corpses and hitting enemies with directional buttons and searching for loot and picking up items, but only if my pet hasn't picked them up. Because my pet kept picking up wands and then dropping them elsewhere, which I suppose is fair enough, because a wand is a piece of wood, so a dog would pick it up, why not? Those activities are the only things I've done in this game.
I believe you died several times.
Oh no, this is not an activity as such, it's a stop of activity.
Tell us how you died, Pawel.
Right, well, I've died once by eating rotten food ration. I've died by getting killed by a jackal or a fox.
You didn't eat a rotten food ration, you ate a corpse.
That's what I equipped myself with. Yes, I kept carrying various things. But
yeah, what Pawel did in the game was he killed an animal, a monster of some sort. I think it was a newt.
Because plenty of newts.
Hunger is a big issue for new players in this game who are unfamiliar with it. It seems like almost insurmountable until you've actually know how to play the game, and then it's relatively trivial to deal with. But so Pawel did. A good tactic was he was like, I'm going to take some of these corpses with me rather than eat them all at once. Unfortunately, one of the things that NetHack has is a timer on every corpse. They decay. If you eat corpses that have gone beyond a certain point, they're considered spoiled and you will get food poisoning. It gives you a message to tell you this, because after this you have a certain amount of time in which you need to do something about it, because if you don't, you're going to die. And that's what happened to you.
I actually once also ate a corpse of a werewolf, I think, and I got cursed with some sort of lycanthropy.
Were-jackal.
Yes, were-jackal. So I kept turning into a different letter, and I couldn't even find myself in the room anymore. And as soon as I would turn into a were-jackal, I would drop all my armor and my weapons. I suppose they could still do something, but
well, you can't. I mean, you cannot wear a suit of armor when you are a jackal. So everything that when you this is called polymorph. When you somehow get polymorphed into a different animal, you change to be the appropriate letter of that animal. If you'd polymorphed into a dragon, you would have burst out of your armor, so it actually would have been destroyed.
Okay.
But because you polymorphed into a smaller animal. You dropped your club, all your armour dropped on the floor. You now had the attributes of that animal. Everything that animal could do, you could now do. Unfortunately, you were a jackal, which is a shitty animal. So
better than newt. Luckily, I must say, I can understand how all of it can seem exciting from a developer's point of view, all the interactions between various factors. But from a player's point of view, it was, and I'm not talking obviously about the graphics because it's a fun part, but other than that, it's just you can get your imagination to play the part. But in terms of what to do in the game, it was just a couple things.
Can I have my say now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry.
Thanks. Because I didn't find the game overly difficult to pick up. I've played games similar to this before. In fact, I may well have played NetHack at some point in the past. But a lot of this was just it was fairly straightforward. I mean, there are some weird commands in this game, that are not intuitive at all. buttons that you press to do certain things, like
comma,
to pick stuff up, and all
because
that.
There's just. You press E to eat, I for your inventory, F to fire your bow. There are so many things, and they're all mnemonics, which makes them easy to remember. Because I started playing this game in 94. I haven't played it since 2006 or something.
Yeah.
I went back and played it. I could remember every command because they're mnemonic. But there aren't enough letters on the freaking keyboard for everything.
You do have to, like... I did have to sit with the little guide thing open just to be like, okay, right, just... how the hell do I do this? And there are some weird commands that you can do, like there's engrave and stuff like that, for example. You can try writing stuff in the dust and all that sort of thing.
There are so many.
This is the thing, like this game's actually really deep. Like when you go into it, like there's a lot that you can do with this. Like Pawel, you've completely missed a lot of what
I'm sure I have, yeah.
And I'm absolutely appalled, right, that you are sitting there as a role player.
Yeah,
sitting there
because this is.
Are sitting there just talking about letters on a screen.
This is a role playing game.
Yeah,
in its real sense.
No, fair enough. It's just we understand role playing games differently.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting there like I'm not seeing. I mean, I almost feel like that guy in the Matrix when he says something like that when he's looking at the Matrix and he says, "I don't see it, I just see blonde, redhead, whatever." Mm-hmm. Like that's what you see when you're playing NetHack. It's like you've got your little at symbol and you've got your walls of your kit, but I'm not seeing a little at symbol. I'm seeing my Orc Ranger running about here with my little dog running around behind me, who's like eating all the corpses that I can't be bothered picking up. And I'm walking into shops and stuff like that in the game, and then my dog's picking up some of the items in the shop and running out the door with them and dropping them outside so that I can just go and pick them up and steal them. And I'm like, good boy.
Is there a command for that? Good boy.
No, but I'm just doing this in myself. Like I'm role playing more than Pawel is here, and this is why I'm appalled that Pawel has not had the same experience that I've had. So like I say, I played as an Orc Ranger, so I'm getting to fire my bow and stuff, and that was good fun. Just standing the other side of the room. The playthrough that I've still got saved at the moment, I found like 5 or 6 different types of wand. And I didn't know what any of them were, so I found a friendly goblin in a room that wasn't doing anything, and I just fired all the wands at him just to find out what happened. He got very angry, but he didn't live long enough to do anything about it. But I did find out that I had a wand of striking and 2 wands of light, and
Nice.
And yeah, I can see where the evolution has gone, because like one of my sort of favourite games, modern games at the moment, sort of thing, has been Unexplored, which is a roguelite. And there is so much similarity with that game and NetHack. Like, it's basic. I mean, you could just argue that that's just an updated graphical version. Obviously, it's got a lot of gameplay differences, but you could just argue that that's just a natural progression over the years. And so this is why like NetHack was so familiar to me, and I'm enjoying playing it. I was sitting playing it at work the other day. I shouldn't have been, but I was sitting playing it at work the other day, and my boss came in like, "What the hell is this?" I'm like, "What?" But no.
This is one of these video games you youngsters like.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I had the same experience as Pawel. I ate a corpse that was very, very bad for me and killed my first character.
Chatted to people.
Yeah, I had the chat.
I was very impressed. Chris was chatting to the enemies.
I was chatting to the goblin, trying to chat to some like really enraged zombies and stuff. My little dog grew up into a dog by eating some corpses and stuff. This is the game of the year for whatever year it came out, as far as I'm concerned. 10 out of 10. Euan.
Yeah, what?
I had I'll be honest, I think I managed a couple of playthroughs of this. So I also went an Orc Ranger, which you were telling me off about.
I was unhappy about this.
And my dog immediately fell in a pit. And then I went off, wandered around. I fell in a pit. I fell in the same pit as the dog originally, and I think maybe the fact that I was standing on top of the dog allowed me to climb back out of the pit without any bother, because I thought, I'm going to be stuck in this pit. I went wandering around, killed some grid bugs, a few jackals and things like that, and then I fell in another pit, and that actually took me to a new floor. So I guess it went down a level, and I explored the entirety of this level that I went down, and I just could not find a way forward from that point. I tried all the doors, I tried various things, I tried zapping stuff. That's another command that's in there.
That's
I just
zapped
everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't really find my way out. I kept fighting stuff and just kept levelling up, and I was like, I'm getting stronger and stronger, just stuck on this floor, fighting weak enemies. I ate a few corpses. I only got the hunger thing come up a couple of times, so I tried my ration. But the first thing I tried was an egg, and it said, it was an inventory, so you've got these nice eggs in your inventory. I ate it, and went, ugh, rotten egg. Which was...
There are little messages for just about everything in this game.
Yeah.
Like, all the things that you can try, they've thought about it, and they try and give you a custom message for it, or a custom behaviour. You can kick things.
That's the thing. Like,
you can kick anything. Go around and kick stuff, and you'll get a different message, for an appropriate message for all the different things that you kick.
Kicked a chest and got a message that said that I heard something breaking.
Right,
and I'm assuming that something in that was made of glass, and I've broken it.
If there's potions in the chest and you kick it, because you might want, if you can't open a chest because it's locked, one of the ways that you can open it, and there are many, is to kick it to break the lock. But downside of that, anything that's breakable, anything that's made of glass, so glass wands, any potions, there's a chance they'll shatter.
But I went through a period of just going around kicking everything. Like, I kicked every door off the hinges. Just as a tribute to our friend Craig, who plays our Pathfinder campaign, likes to kick all the doors off. There's just so much love gone into this game, I think, and so much work.
You have to remember when this game came out, and
exactly
by 93, it was, although development continued up until 2003, when they were pretty much refining it from 93 onwards. By 93, this game was amazing, and it had, when I played this game, and it was in 94, initially I was like, oh, it's a sort of text-based dungeon crawler. I was playing it on an actual text terminal, and my friend was like, oh, here's this game, and I was like, all right, okay. And then you play it, and then you're like, oh, there's like so much more to this game than you expect when you first play it, because there's just, like, you go down, and then you're like, then you find other things, because it's not just the procedurally generated levels. You start finding other stuff, and you start finding other items, and you find more interesting monsters that do more interesting things. I mean, sometimes they're bad things. I mean,
I would imagine most of the time they're bad things.
Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes you just encounter hordes of monsters, but then it's a turn-based game, and you have all the time in the world to decide how you're going to deal with it, and it's not always walking into them. It's quite often, just blindly meleeing everything you come across will eventually lead to your demise once you get far enough. You have to start thinking about other things.
Pavel's nodding his head.
blindly meleeing is what I've been doing. Yeah.
It's a shame you got stuck there, Euan. Did you not think there's like stairs?
Possibly, and there's maybe a command I've missed or something. I went around on that floor for the most part, just dragging a chest around because I couldn't work out how to get it open. Then I was like, I was trying everything.
I think I wrote a small guide. See, you guys, I feel that Euan maybe didn't read.
No,
my guide.
I did read it. I saw it was there, and I was like, do you know what? And you talked about being dropped into this, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go for the authentic experience. I'm just going to play it blind. I did very quickly have to start looking through your. I was like, no, I physically can't function in this if I don't look at least some of this, like the comma thing for picking stuff up. I was constantly walking around this orcish dagger, like, oh, this is interesting. There's an orcish dagger on the floor. I'm going to look at this for a while. And I've tried all the various. I thought you did say, trial and error, try things out, and I did, but most of it was pretty fruitless. So I did have to look that up. But I like the idea. I felt this is quite amusing that I've just got this orcs just dragging a huge chest around for no reason.
That's the thing. I love playing as orcs in these kind of games. Just I feel like I get a better role playing experience. You feel almost like, well, chaotic stupid. Like just walking about, booting things, not having a care in the world. Just like, I don't care. I'll just kick the shit out of stuff. So, is that our feelings on NetHack then? Dave, do you want to summarise this at all?
Yeah, well, I'm glad everyone played it. It was a sort of range of experiences. I'm glad that Chris sort of managed to get a bit further with it, shall we say, because that's where the sort of enjoyment of that game comes from, is persisting with it and then finding all the, just through trial and error, and just you'll see weird things happen. Like there's shops. Like the first time I found a shop, I was like, shit, there's shops in this game. And then there are shops, they have shopkeepers. There's a whole host of things, that behaviours based around stealing stuff from shops. There's things like pickaxes which you can use to dig through the level. Well, you might, you think, well, I can try and take them into the shop. The shopkeeper won't let you take your pickaxe into the shop. If he sees you've got it in your inventory, you'll be like, well, maybe you can throw anything in this game. You can wield anything in this game. You can wield the chest and attack monsters with it if you want.
I'm going to try that.
So,
well, that was the thing I noticed. That was like, suddenly my weapons have been replaced.
But Dave, is this the perfect game?
Well, I wasn't sure when I went. It's been a while since I played it, and because there's been so many indie games that have come out now that I think have finally caught up in terms of sophistication with this game. I would say in terms of the mechanics and the interactions. I wasn't sure if it would still be good, but I still enjoyed playing it. I've been playing it a little bit at home. I've got a save game on the go. I know a little bit more about the game, so I can go a bit quicker and get a bit further and not die so easily. I'm like, I know where I am. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do. It's still a good game. I'm
tempted to say that the fact that it's so basic in how it's made and how it's just text and stuff like that, that's probably what makes it so good. And like you say, the fact that you can just wield a chest and hit somebody with it,
right,
trying to program that into a modern game nowadays with all the graphical limitations that you have and stuff like that would be, it would have been a nightmare of a time. You'd be there for years.
Yeah, I mean that is, you're absolutely right. That is the benefit of the text-based system. To code all this it'd just be very prohibitive because there's just so many behaviours in this game, and some of it is emergent, which is things interacting with other things, but a lot of it is basically hard-coded. There's all sorts of NetHack acronyms because there's a whole culture that goes around with the game, and one of them is TDTOE. I've got it written down here. The developers think of everything, and that's because people were like, when you do this, it should really do that, and then they're like, all right, yeah, they put it in the game. So there's hundreds and hundreds of examples. If you stand on the top of the stairs and drop stuff, it'll fall down the stairs. If you're carrying too much, you become overburdened. If you go downstairs, you might fall down the stairs if you're carrying too much. You might drop your weapon. When you fall down the stairs, the weapon might hit you and damage you. It's just insane. It's like if you're levitating, if you're wearing a cursed ring of levitation, which is why you shouldn't just put on every ring that you find without identifying whether it's cursed or not. You can't pick stuff up off the floor.
Yeah,
You can't reach the floor anymore.
I didn't find a cursed ring. I was able to take it off, but I did find a ring of levitation, which was quite amusing when I did try and pick some stuff up, and I was like, why is the game not working? I was like, oh no, wait, it's because I'm floating in the air. Yeah.
If you throw something while you're levitating, you move backwards. How far you move backwards is dependent on the weight.
And got moved back.
If you throw a heavy thing, or if you're stronger, you'll move back more further. There's just so much in it. It's like I said to the guys earlier, I could talk about it for hours because there are so many things in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, whether that makes a game you enjoy. I mean, the role-playing aspect doesn't just come from it being based on D&D. It comes from different classes. Once people beat this game with one class, and I have finished it once, albeit with the spoilers to help me complete the storyline. People go back and play with different classes. There's like the tourist. That's a challenge class. It's based on the tourist guy from the Pratchett novels.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Too far because you start with is a Hawaiian shirt, a camera, and a credit card.
Nice.
So you're all right in shops, but.
And then once people do that, they start doing challenge runs. So they'll do like a vegan run. They'll do a pacifist run where you don't actually kill any animals yourself. They'll do an illiterate one where you never read any scrolls and you never engrave anything on the floor. And that's the kind of role playing. It's not it's the role in the sort of, not in the story sense, in that there's a great story, because there isn't. There's a way to complete the game, and every class has its own quest, but it's not The Witcher. I mean,
no.
No, we're not trying to compare, obviously.
But it's that role. It's taking the role of a warrior, a dungeon crawler of some sort, and playing it out in the way you see fit. Be it kicking doors open, not kicking doors open, being nice to the shopkeepers, abusing the shopkeepers in various ways.
I can clearly see why you guys all enjoy this game, and it just comes from a different, I suppose, needs. What?
I'm really shocked that you didn't enjoy this as much as the rest of us.
An example would be and everything. I mean, this is all very impressive. I fully agree, and the amount of work put into all the algorithms and all the interactivity between different factors. We're talking about years and years of work put into something that's obviously quite flexible, thanks to lack of any graphics whatsoever. You can do just about anything, because if you want your character to wield door, you can, because you're just pressing one button, and then you know that your character is wielding door because it's in your equipment in the, I don't know, wielding section. You don't have to do anything with it, so obviously the game,
when you attack something, it will say you begin hitting the monster with the door, like Chris kept hitting things with his bow,
or
you get a special message for that.
Exactly.
You start swinging with your bow or something like that. I'm just sitting there going, oh yeah, I've got the bow equipped.
Obviously, thanks to the graphics, it's all very doable, and fair enough. I think that the reason why this is not my kind of game is simply because, in my eyes, and I just, this is my own personal opinion, the fact that the character can pick up a door to wield it does not make a game better, in my eyes, for what I like. In fact, it probably
Pavel,
makes it worse.
You're wrong.
You can't pick up a door in this game, though.
No. My point is the freedom of action is not what I look for in games, and that's why this game, which the only sort of advantage I can see of playing it is because there's been so many different things you can do in it. That doesn't appeal to me as something that would make a great game.
I understand, but like when you talked about what was that game you guys were? I'm not going to remember the name of it.
Are we talking about Divinity?
Right.
That's a recent RPG that allows you to do a lot.
Yeah. So when you and Chris talked about Divinity, one of the things you said was that you were unhappy about the sort of believability of it.
Yeah.
Well, all the things that are in NetHack make it more believable, because to me it makes it more real. Because you can't wield a door in NetHack, but you can hit things with a chest, but only if you're strong enough to wield the chest. And if you want to carry a chest around with you, you'll pay the cost for carrying it because it's freaking heavy. That, to me, that's the thing I thought you might not like about it is there's a fair amount of levity in this game. There's a lot of in-jokes and humour and silly things, which I thought that might... Maybe you didn't really encounter too much of that.
Probably not, because I've only been on 4 levels, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of silly, nerdy jokes. Like if you eat an apple, it says core dumped. And
yeah, I noticed that. So at first I thought it was a system message, and then I was like, what?
And you realise you're not looking at the DOS.
Yeah, I'm just not looking. I'm not in DOS at the moment. It just looks like a...
But yeah, I understand it's not for everyone, and I do take your point that all this stuff I'm talking about, it doesn't mean that you're going to enjoy it.
It's mechanics. No matter how much mechanics can be advanced in the game, and this game obviously offers a lot of very deep mechanics. But to me, mechanics, it's like if I pick up a role-playing game, an actual tabletop role-playing game, a book with a lore section in it and a mechanics section in it, and I'm not interested in the mechanics in the slightest. So that's why a game like this will not appeal to me unless there is an engaging storyline, interesting NPCs, things like this.
Yeah, and
this game obviously would not have it.
It does, but not. I think you're correct in that not to the level that you would expect, because it's not Baldur's Gate, a game which was out at a similar, or which I was playing at the same time. And no, that it isn't. There is a way to complete the game, and there is a bit more to it than just hitting monsters and going down as far as you can. And there's a lot of strategy in this game, particularly when you're playing with the harder classes. But no, there's not nobody plays NetHack for the story. The story is the story you make. That's the story of NetHack. The story is of you finish your game and you remember all the great stupid things. Remember that time I ate a werejackal corpse like a freaking idiot.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So no, I can fully understand why to some people this game could be a proper holy grail.
It's what you it's one of these games that you like. I've heard the term like it's a water cooler game. It's people standing around telling each other what stupid things they managed to get up to in this game and the idiotic mistakes that they made, and everybody's got a different experience with it. I think that's the feel I get out of this anyway. But yeah, we're going to have to wrap up. Like, this has gone on for far too long, this episode.
They've just
it's
started,
been interesting.
There's more.
I know, but I quite believe
we can always get back.
We could probably come back and talk about Night Hack again sometime in the future and go on for another half an hour. But, yeah.
I'll tell you, I could report on my Night Hack game.
So yeah, we're way over schedule here. But I mean, I could always just cut out Pawel's review of Fallout Shelter.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, let's get on to the internet stuff. If you want to email us, if you want to ask us a question, if you want us to answer it on the show, anything like that, if you want to recommend something for the Video Games Book Club, please do. They can email us at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST. We are on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. We have a PSN community. Those are all the large and unnecessary First Player Token, or just First Player Token. The exception is Twitter, which is at 1ST Player Token.
It's just once Player Token.
Thank you very much.
Remember that.
We have a Discord, so you can go to discord.me/First Player Token to join us there. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris if you want to come and watch me playing some more Hollow Knight and Bounty Train. And we are part of the Podnose Network,
the UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
How are things, Euan?
All good. Patreon's still going. So if you're a Podnose aficionado and you want to help them keep the lights on, then kick in a quid. just throw
Control and D a quid.
Exactly.
That's the net hack shortcut, I believe.
That's all. See,
I learned something.
Listen out for these references throughout the rest of the lifetime of this podcast. And new radio play coming out from the.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Which is looking. I had to be listening to the first one. If you listen to the All Seeing Guys. They've been sort of building up a narrative through their podcast. I'm not entirely up to speed with it at all, but it seems amusing enough. So give Podnose a wee swatch.
Yep, so you can go to podnose.com to see all the podcasts that are part of the network on there,
including us.
And that's it for this week. We will be back next week. It's most likely going to be a video games episode again, I think, but we'll see how we get on with the board gaming. But until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
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 Bye.